The Beast and the Battalion. The twin suns of Dravus IV burned mercilessly above the parade ground, baking the desert world into a shimmering sea of gold and glass. Rows of recruits stood at rigid attention, sweat glistening on scales, fur, and skin alike. 50 different species, 50 different worlds, but all carried the same mix of fear and pride in their eyes. They had come to prove themselves worthy of the Galactic Concord's elite legion, and none of them wanted to be the one who flinched. The air vibrated with tension. Then the gates opened. A metallic rumble echoed as the handlers stepped aside, and the war beast emerged. It was enormous, a hulking creature of black scales that shimmered like armor plates, each one etched with alien sigils of wars long past. Its eyes glowed molten amber, scanning the line of cadets with a slow, deliberate intelligence. The ground trembled under its steps. Even the air seemed to grow heavier. "By the core," whispered someone in the ranks. "It's bigger than the vid show." The war beast, Vor, the instructors called it, was more than just a test. It was a legend. For over 2 centuries, the Concord had trusted Vor to identify leaders, not through rank, not through bloodline, but through instinct. It was said the creature could smell fear, pride, deceit, and courage as if they were different colors in the air. The commandant's voice boomed through the speakers. "Stand firm, cadets. Vor will judge your worth. Do not speak. Do not move. Do not run." The beast began its slow march down the line. It stopped first before a towering insectoid from the Kithri swarm, sniffed once, then passed. The cadet exhaled shakily. Next, a feline-like warrior from Raz. Vor paused longer, growled low, then continued. One by one, it inspected each recruit, its nostrils flaring, its tail swaying like a pendulum of judgment. When it came to human Corporal Mason Hale, the others barely looked his way. The only human in the class, Hale had arrived with quiet eyes and old scars. His uniform was standard, his demeanor plain. To most, he looked painfully ordinary. In a galaxy that valued genetic perfection, enhanced reflexes, and centuries of evolution, humans were considered quaint. A race of storytellers and survivors, not soldiers. But Vor stopped before him. The beast lowered its massive head, so close Hale could feel the heat of its breath, a strange mix of metal, ozone, and blood. He stood perfectly still, his jaw tight. The creature sniffed once, twice, then pressed its nose gently against his chest. The world seemed to hold its breath. And then, against every expectation, Vor exhaled softly, turned once in a circle, and curled up at Hale's feet. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind stopped moving. "What in the stars?" muttered an instructor. The alien cadets exchanged stunned looks. Raxil, a broad-shouldered reptilian cadet, hissed with disbelief. "It's broken protocol. No one, it's never done that." The commandant's voice crackled, faltering. "Beast handler, explain this." But the handler only stammered. "Sir, Vor's never submitted. It's chosen him." Hale stared down at the massive creature resting beside him. Its golden eyes looked up at him with quiet recognition, as if it had found something it had long been searching for. He swallowed, unsure what to do. Around him, whispers and glares mixed in the dry heat. Finally, Hale spoke, his voice low, almost hesitant. "Guess you've got good instincts, buddy." A ripple of laughter and anger rolled through the ranks. The commandant barked, "Silence!" But the damage was done. The human had broken the sacred stillness, and somehow the beast seemed to approve. Vor let out a low, rumbling purr, a sound deep enough to shake the sand, and closed its eyes, content. The handler looked pale. "Sir, this means it's bound. It's not just recognizing him, it's bonded." The commandant's eyes narrowed. "To a human?" No one answered. Hale simply stood there, the great creature resting at his side like a guardian reborn from another age. The twin suns glinted off its black armor and his plain uniform, 2 outcasts, side by side. Far above, the training drones hovered, recording everything. This was not the ceremony the Concord had planned. It was the beginning of a legend they could no longer control. Instinct of the ancient. The training barracks of Dravus IV were silent that night. Silent, except for the low, steady breathing of a creature too large to fit through the door. Vor lay outside Hale's quarters, its armored back pressed against the metal wall, tail curled protectively around the entrance. Every now and then, it let out a faint, rhythmic growl, the alien equivalent of a cat's purr. Hale hadn't slept. He sat on his bunk, staring at the faint light from the corridor, replaying the day's events in his head. He wasn't supposed to be here. He joined the Concord forces after losing everything in the Earth-Kieran Wars, just another medic turned soldier trying to keep his mind busy. But now, somehow, a mythic war beast had chosen him. Out of everyone. Out of every genetically perfect recruit. And nobody seemed to know why. The door hissed open. Standing there was Raxil, the reptilian cadet whose pride Vor had just trampled. His scaled face gleamed in the dim light, and his yellow eyes narrowed. "You humiliate us," Raxil hissed. "The beast chooses by bloodline, by spirit, not by accident." "I didn't ask for it," Hale replied quietly. "Then refuse it," Raxil growled, stepping closer. "Commandant will listen. No one wants an unmodified mammal leading our ranks." Before Hale could answer, a deep rumble rolled through the barracks. Vor shifted outside, sensing aggression. The sound made the floor vibrate. Raxil froze, his tongue flicking nervously. Hale met his gaze. "Looks like he disagrees." Raxil sneered but backed away. "This isn't over, human." When the door sealed again, Hale let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He rubbed his temples. "Great. First day and I've got a 10-foot murder lizard as a bodyguard and an angry mob forming behind me." Outside, Vor stirred. Hale heard the creature's low rumble in response. Not angry, not hostile. Just understanding. The following days were chaos. Commandant Rowe demanded answers, scientists ran scans, and alien cadets whispered in the halls. Yet Vor remained calm, obeying only Hale's voice. No other trainer could make it move. Dr. Celine Vera, the xenobiologist assigned to study the beast, was fascinated. "Its brain patterns change when you're near it," she said during an exam. "Almost as if your neural rhythms sync. This isn't a random selection, it's a bond." Hale frowned. "Like a dog picking its owner?" "More like a weapon remembering its wielder," she replied softly. That thought unsettled him. During training drills, Vor moved with precision beside him. When Hale sprinted an obstacle course, Vor mirrored him with inhuman grace. When Hale was attacked by mock drones, Vor intercepted them mid-air with blinding speed. It didn't feel like command. It felt like partnership. One evening, as the suns dipped below the dunes, Hale sat beside Vor on the sand, watching the sky turn crimson. He whispered, "You could have picked anyone, you know." Vor tilted its massive head. Hale felt, rather than heard, the response. A pulse in his mind, like memory flooding through him. Suddenly he was seeing through Vor's eyes, a battlefield from centuries ago. Burning metal, shattered ships, and humans in armor fighting beside creatures like Vor. They weren't enemies. They were brothers in arms. The vision faded, leaving Hale gasping. Vor growled softly, nudging him as if asking, "Do you understand now?" Hale touched the creature's scaled head. "You've seen us before," he murmured. "You remember." That night, he couldn't sleep. The image replayed again and again, humans and beasts, fighting together under a flag he didn't recognize. What had the Concord hidden? What war had bound these species long before history began? The next morning, trouble came. During a combat simulation, a cadet sabotaged Hale's exosuit. The thrusters failed mid-jump, sending him crashing to the ground. Before he could move, Raxil approached, smirking. "Still think the beast will save you now, human?" A thunderous roar answered him. Vor broke through the barrier, claws digging furrows into the sand. It slammed its tail down, narrowly missing Raxil. The reptilian stumbled back in terror. "Vor, stop!" Hale shouted, running between them. The beast froze instantly, eyes locked on Hale. Silence. Only the wind and Hale's heavy breathing. He turned toward Raxil. "You wanted proof I don't command it? There you go. It chooses what it does, and right now, it chose not to kill you." Raxil said nothing. The fear in his eyes spoke for him. Guards rushed in, weapons drawn. Hale raised a hand. "It's over. No one's hurt. But later, when the report reached Commandant Rowe, his verdict was harsh. Human Corporal Hale, you will be confined for endangering recruits. The beast will be restrained. As they locked him away, Hale caught one last glimpse through the cell window, Vor being chained, its golden eyes fixed on him with silent loyalty. Hours later, the alarms blared. Metal screamed. The wall to Hale's cell split apart in a shower of sparks. Through the smoke stepped Vor, chains hanging broken around its limbs. It knelt, lowering its head so Hale could climb on. For the first time since arriving on Dravus IV, Hale smiled. Guess you're not big on following orders either. The Siege of Black Dune. The first explosion woke Hale before dawn. The second one shook the entire base. Red emergency lights bathed the barracks in crimson flashes as alarms howled across the compound. Hale was already half-dressed, sprinting toward the hangar with Vor thundering behind him. The war beast's claws tore through the sand, its eyes glowing brighter than the warning beacons. Through the comms, Commandant Rowe's voice cracked under static. Cadets, report to your squads. Black Dune outpost is under siege. Unknown enemy assault. Repeat, hostile forces. The transmission cut off in a burst of white noise. Hale glanced toward the horizon. In the distance, plumes of black smoke rose where the suns met the desert, the direction of outpost Black Dune. The training world had just turned into a battlefield. By the time Hale reached the hangar, chaos had erupted. Recruits scrambled into dropships, shouting over one another in a dozen different languages. Some refused to board at all. A few of the instructors were already dead, vaporized in the opening salvo. Raxil appeared at Hale's side, armor half-fastened, his face grim. Whatever hit us wasn't pirates, he said. Those blasts came from orbital artillery. Somebody wants us wiped out. Hale met his gaze. Then we fight. He turned to Vor. The creature rumbled low, a sound that felt like a promise. The journey to Black Dune was short and brutal. The dropship's hull rattled as they entered the combat zone. From the windows, Hale saw the outpost, or what was left of it. Towers burned, metal twisted, and the dunes glowed from plasma strikes. Marching across the sands were war machines, towering biomech constructs, shaped like insects, bristling with cannons. Their eyes burned red, their armor glistened like living steel. "Those aren't Concord units," muttered one cadet. "What are they?" Hale recognized the design instantly. He'd seen something like them once before, during Earth's border wars. "They're self-replicating AIs," he said quietly. "They don't stop until everything breathes no more." When the dropship touched down, the cadets scattered for cover. Many froze at the sight of the machines advancing through the smoke. Some tried to radio command. No answer. The officers were gone. Hale took charge before he could think about it. Form a perimeter. Use the debris for cover. Vor, front line. The beast roared and surged ahead, leaping over fallen structures and crushing one of the machines beneath its claws. Its armor split open in a burst of fire and oil. Blaster bolts sliced the air. Hale dove behind a wrecked vehicle, shouting orders. His voice cut through the panic. "Pair up. Watch your angles. Don't waste fire." Even Raxil followed his lead, his plasma rifle glowing as he covered Hale's flank. For the first time, there was no mockery in the alien's voice, only trust. "Orders, human. Hit the joints." Hale yelled back. "Bring them down before they reach the power core." The desert turned into a storm of light and fury. Vor fought like a creature born from war itself, smashing through ranks of biomechs, tearing, burning, shielding Hale from every direction. Then came the plasma barrage. The sky erupted in white fire. A beam struck the ridge behind them, throwing Hale and Vor into the air. Hale landed hard, pain exploding through his ribs. He heard Vor's roar, deep, wounded, fading. When the dust cleared, the beast was down, one side of its armor seared black. "No," Hale breathed, crawling toward it. Vor's golden eyes blinked weakly, its breath shallow. Around them, the cadets were faltering, leaderless again. Hale staggered to his feet. Blood ran down his face, but his voice was steady. "Fall in. You're not done yet." He climbed onto Vor's back, placing a hand on its neck. Something pulsed between them, the same strange connection from before, only stronger. His mind flooded with instincts not his own, tactical senses sharper than any training. He could feel the rhythm of the battlefield, the heat of every plasma shot, the fear of every cadet. He commanded through instinct, not words. Left flank, push forward. Raxil, take your team high ground. Vor, with me. They moved as one. Vor rose again, roaring defiance into the chaos. The cadets followed, their scattered fear coalescing into purpose. One by one, the biomechs fell. Smoke rose, machines screamed, and the dunes trembled under the combined might of beast and soldier. When the last machine exploded, Hale dropped to his knees beside Vor. The creature's breathing was shallow, its chest scorched. He placed a hand on its head. "You did good, buddy," he whispered. "You saved them." Vor's golden eyes dimmed, but its massive tail tapped the sand once, a final gesture, soft and loyal, before going still. By the time evacuation arrived, the desert was quiet again. Raxil stood beside Hale, covered in ash. "The beast, it saved us all." Hale didn't respond. He just looked at the horizon, where the suns were rising through the smoke. Somewhere in the heat and silence, he swore he could still hear Vor's low purr, not gone, just waiting. The human had led the impossible, and the galaxy would never forget. The legacy of Vor. The desert winds of Dravus IV carried the smell of ash and iron. 3 days had passed since the Battle of Black Dune. The suns had risen and fallen, but the world still burned. Scavenger drones circled overhead, cataloging wreckage and remains. In the middle of that silence, Corporal Mason Hale stood over a mound of sand, freshly turned, marked only by a piece of black scale the size of his palm. Vor's armor plate gleamed faintly in the morning light, reflecting twin suns that felt colder than ever before. The others gave him distance. Even Raxil, once his loudest critic, stood quietly at the edge of the dunes, helmet held against his chest. The cadets who had survived owed their lives to the human and the beast. And they all knew it. Hale crouched, pressing his hand into the sand. "You deserved better than this," he whispered. "A medal, a name on some wall. But maybe, this is how warriors like you rest." The sand didn't answer, but the wind shifted, a low hum, like a purr carried across the dunes. Hale smiled faintly. "Yeah," he murmured. "I'll take that as a goodbye." The survivors were flown back to the Concord Citadel, the shining heart of the galactic military. The debriefing halls, once a place of sterile pride, felt heavier now, scarred soldiers limping past banners of victory that suddenly felt hollow. Commandant Rowe awaited them, flanked by high-ranking officers and political envoys. "Corporal Hale," Rowe said formally, "against protocol, against command structure, you took control of a unit under siege and led them to victory." He paused. "You also lost a Concord asset of immeasurable value." Hale straightened, meeting the commandant's gaze. "Vor wasn't an asset," he said quietly. "He was a soldier." A murmur ran through the assembly. Rowe's expression tightened. "Be that as it may, the council must assess responsibility. The creature's destruction was—" Raxil interrupted, stepping forward. "A sacrifice that saved every one of us." His voice was hard, proud. "Without the human, we'd all be corpses under the dunes. Vor chose him, and he chose right." The room fell silent. Dr. Vera, the xenobiologist, spoke next, holding a datapad. "Before Vor's death, I scanned residual neural activity in its cortex. The patterns match human neural architecture from pre-Concord records. Vor's kind once fought beside early human explorers. This wasn't random. It was recognition." The council erupted in quiet disbelief, whispers rippling like wind through tall grass. Rowe looked shaken. "You're suggesting a genetic memory link?" Vera nodded. "Vor didn't just choose Hale. It remembered him, or rather, what humanity once was." That night, Hale sat alone in his quarters, the datapad glowing faintly beside him. On it played an ancient recovered hollow, grainy monochrome, showing humans and massive beasts like Vor fighting side by side in another age. The humans bore old Earth insignias, UNSF, Earth Expeditionary Command. He whispered to the empty room, "So you really did know us?" A soft knock broke his thoughts. The door slid open, revealing Raxil. The reptilian warrior carried a small metal case. "The others wanted you to have this," he said. Inside lay Vor's scale, polished and etched with the Legion's insignia. A symbol of the bond between human and beast. "They're calling it the Pact of Instinct." Hale traced the edge of the scale with his thumb. "He wouldn't care about medals," he said. "He just wanted to fight beside someone who'd stand their ground." "Then you gave him exactly that," Raxil said. "And maybe you gave us something, too." Weeks later, the Concord held a ceremony in the Great Hall, a place of marble and holographic banners. Representatives from dozens of species stood together as Hale stepped to the podium. He wasn't in full dress uniform, just the worn combat jacket he'd worn in battle. Vor's scale hung from his neck like a talisman. He looked out at the crowd, the same faces that once sneered at the human who didn't belong. "When Vor chose me," he began, "I didn't understand why. I thought it was a mistake. But now I know, he wasn't choosing a person. He was remembering a promise." The hall was silent. Strength isn't about rank or species. It's about loyalty. About trust. Vor saw that in me, and maybe, in some small way, I saw it in him. He didn't kneel to power. He knelt to heart. He paused, lifting the scale high. "So from this day, let that bond remind us all, the Concord doesn't lead through fear. It leads through faith." Applause erupted, not polite, but raw and thunderous. For the first time, species that had never spoken shook hands, bowed heads, or raised fists in respect. Later, Hale walked alone through the hangar bay. He looked out across the stars beyond the glass, a million lights flickering like ghosts of old wars. He spoke softly, as if to the wind. "Wherever you are, Vor, we did it." And for a heartbeat, just as the lights dimmed for night cycle, Hale thought he heard it, a distant, familiar growl rolling through the air, warm and alive. He smiled, stepping toward the stars. "The war beast chose once," he whispered. "And through us, it'll never choose wrong again."